I never expected the person I trusted most to betray me in the cruelest way, right under my own roof. Part 1, I thought I knew my life. The rhythm of our days, the comfort of our shared routines, the quiet love that existed between me and Jason. It all felt steady, like a lighthouse guiding me through every storm. We had been together for almost a decade, married for 5, and though life was far from perfect, I believed in us. I believed in him. Our home was modest but warm, filled with memories we'd built together. I loved how Jason could make me laugh after the hardest days, how he'd hold my hand when the silence grew too heavy. We weren't flashy, but we were solid. Or so I thought. It started with small changes, almost imperceptible at first. Jason began working late more often, claiming extra hours at the office, which I never questioned. We both had stressful jobs, so I told myself it was normal. But then came the texts. His phone buzzed more frequently, always guarded when I was near. A smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, and the way he'd check his messages when I walked into the room. My gut twisted with worry, but I pushed the thoughts away. I wanted to trust him. Then one evening, I came home early from work, hoping to surprise him with dinner. As I walked through the front door, I heard laughter, soft, familiar laughter, coming from the living room. My heart leapt, expecting Jason's voice. But it wasn't him. It was her. She was standing there, Jessica, a woman I'd seen at a few company events, someone Jason mentioned once or twice, but never with much detail. She looked at me with a startled smile that quickly faded when she realized I'd caught them. The way they stood close together, the ease of their touch, the secrecy of their whispered conversation, it shattered something inside me. I don't remember how I managed to keep my composure as I walked back out the door that night. My world, which had once felt like solid ground, crumbled beneath my feet. In the days that followed, I discovered the layers of deception Jason had built around us. Text messages hidden in locked apps, meetings he lied about, late-night calls he claimed were work-related. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was about the lies, the broken trust, and the realization that the man I loved had been living a double life beneath the same roof. But what hurt the most wasn't just the infidelity. It was the way Jessica became a ghost in my marriage, silently erasing the years Jason and I had shared. How every memory suddenly felt tainted, every laugh replaced with suspicion. I felt lost, angry, hurt, and utterly alone. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that this story wasn't over, that I had a choice, to let this betrayal define me, or to fight back and reclaim my life. This is my story. The story of how I faced the betrayal hiding beneath my own roof, and found strength I never knew I had. Part 2. The days after I found out about Jessica felt like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every routine, every plan Jason and I had made seemed like a cruel joke now. How could I have been so blind? How could he have lied so easily? I started keeping track. The times he said he was at work but was really texting her. The days he had meetings that never existed. The betrayal wasn't just a moment. It was a slow, poisonous leak that eroded everything I believed in. I confronted him once, trembling with fear and fury. His face was cold, unreadable. He denied at first, then confessed with a weak apology. But it wasn't remorse I saw in his eyes. It was guilt mixed with entitlement. He wanted to have both worlds, me and her, without the consequences. I couldn't breathe in that moment. The man I loved had become a stranger, someone I didn't recognize. I felt angry at Jessica too. Angry that she had become the secret shadow between us, the reason for sleepless nights and shattered dreams. But most of all, I felt angry at myself. How did I let this happen? Was I not enough? Friends told me to leave to take control of my life again. But the idea of starting over terrified me. I still loved Jason, or maybe I loved the memory of him, the man he pretended to be. I found solace in therapy, where I poured out my pain and confusion. Slowly, I started to understand that healing wouldn't be linear. It would be messy, painful, but necessary. One evening, Jason came home and found me packing a suitcase. I looked at him, no tears left to shed. "I need space," I said. "I need to find myself again." He nodded silently, perhaps for the first time realizing the depth of what he'd lost. That night, I stayed at a friend's place, away from the house that held so many broken promises. I realized I had a choice, to let this betrayal consume me, or to rise from the ashes, stronger and wiser. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Part 3 days turned into weeks. I stayed at my friend's apartment, surrounded by kindness but still wrestling with the storm inside me. Every night I'd stare at the ceiling, haunted by memories, the laughter that now felt like lies, the moments that seemed real but were just facades. Jason tried reaching out, calls, texts, even showing up at my friend's door. I didn't answer. How could I? Each attempt was a reminder of the trust he shattered. But as the shock faded, anger grew, not just at him, but at myself, for trusting so blindly, for ignoring the signs, for convincing myself that love was enough to overcome anything. I began rebuilding myself, small steps at first. I went back to the gym, started journaling, and reconnected with old friends I'd neglected. I found strength in the quiet moments, in knowing I could survive this. Then one day, Jason showed up with a therapist card. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes," he said. "I want to fix this. I want us back." But fixing us wasn't just his burden, it was ours. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to trust him again, or even trust myself. I told him I needed time and space. Healing wasn't going to happen overnight, but maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was learning to forgive, to accept the brokenness, and to find hope in a future uncertain. Part 4. Time passed slowly, like a healing wound that itched but refused to close. Jason and I began attending therapy together, awkward at first, raw and uncomfortable. The truth peeled back layer by layer, exposing vulnerabilities I had buried deep. He explained the loneliness he felt, the mistakes born from weakness and confusion. I shared the heartbreak and fear that kept me awake at night. We weren't perfect, far from it, but for the first time in months, we were honest. Rebuilding wasn't easy. Old habits died hard. There were setbacks, arguments fueled by pain, moments of doubt that threatened to unravel us again. But through the struggle, I found a flicker of hope. I realized betrayal isn't just about the act. It's about what comes after. The choice to fight or flee, to break or rebuild. For me, it became a test of strength I never knew I had. Slowly, the cracks began to fill with something new. Understanding, forgiveness, and a cautious optimism. We weren't the same couple we once were, but maybe we could become something better. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to walk it. Not because I was naive, but because I believed in the possibility of healing. 5 months later, the house no longer felt like a prison. It was a space of cautious hope, a home where honesty replaced secrets. Jason and I had learned to communicate, not perfectly, but sincerely. Trust didn't return overnight. Some days it felt fragile, like a glass balancing on a knife's edge. But we chose to protect it, to nurture it, because the alternative was losing everything. I found strength in forgiveness, not to forget or excuse, but to free myself from the weight of bitterness. And Jason learned that love is more than words. It's action, consistency, and respect. Our story wasn't about a perfect happily ever after. It was about survival, growth, and the courage to face brokenness head on. I'm still healing, still learning, but I'm no longer a victim trapped by betrayal. I'm a woman who chose to fight for herself, for her family, and for the life she wants to build, on her terms. Sometimes the hardest battles lead to the strongest selves. This was mine.